say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does the public understand just how much trouble the president is in?
To believe that the president isn't compromised requires such a leap of faith.
I think we have all the proof we need of a scandal that's arguably worse than Watergate.
The U.S. president possibly working for the Russians, possibly an unwitting pawn.
Now, here's what the president said when asked if he was a secret Russian agent.
The president did not directly answer the question.
Why not just say no if that's the answer?
There is tons of proof of potential collusion.
We have dramatic evidence of collusion.
How is it not collusion? How is all of that not collusion?
A political hurricane is out there at sea for him. We'll call it Hurricane Vladimir, if you will.
Donald Trump knows the noose is tightening.
The noose is tightening.
The noose is tightening, if you will.
The noose is tightening around the president.
The noose is tightening. And I think they're shocked that the noose is tightening and that people might go to jail.
He knows he and POTUS are going to prison.
Well, I think they're all going to end up together in prison, and maybe that's a good thing.
Oh, my God.
The walls appear to be closing in on the president.
The investigative walls are closing in.
He feels the walls closing in.
The walls are closing in.
Trump resigns, quote, once Mueller closes in on him and the family.
Anybody that writes an op-ed and suggests that Donald Trump has not put himself directly in the target of an obstruction charge is just fooling themselves and some very, very stupid, ill-informed readers.
They are the kind of offenses that would call for impeachment hearings.
If someone walked in my office and said I was a subject of a multi-year criminal investigation led by former FBI Director Robert Mueller, I'd wet my pants.
Mueller reminds me of the starfish, which gets itself tightly around the clam and uses all its stuff to weaken and pry open the clam. Now, this is a battle to the death as far as the clam is concerned. If the starfish is able to open him even a little bit, he can get him open all the way, and that's it, of course, for the clam.
That's it. The clam dies. Do you think they actually, I don't know, collude beforehand as to what they're going to all say? It's like a broken record. They all use the exact same talking points. They did it in 2016. They did it every year since. And they continue to do it. Yet, all the Russia collusion stuff is being exposed for us all to see, and they don't want to cover it now. Pretty special, if you ask me. How'd that work out for you, Democrats and liberals? Liberal news media? Bunch of lying, no good sack of shit. That's what you all are. Lying, no good sack of shit. But first, it's been a pleasure to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. I thank you very, very much for joining tonight's live broadcast. Whether you're watching us live tonight on YouTube or Rumble or X, formerly Twitter, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your family and friends, and let them know that we come on at 8 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. All right. So, let me address my liberal and Democrat friends and acquaintances out there who are so thrilled, literally, with every single lawsuit filed against Donald Trump. Just a thrill up your leg, and especially those that stuck and Trump lost in court and were charged with. I told you all many, many times that they will be overturned on appeal, every damn one of them, because this was simply an overreach of authority by lower district court judges the two-tier justice system weaponized against Trump, which started under Obama and continued under Biden. You said I was wrong. You said I had no clue what I was talking about. Yet, here we are. And so far, I was 100% correct, and you were all wrong once again. When I said all of these cases are going to be overturned on appeal, laugh now all you want. Well, now you got egg on your face. Each of these lawsuits are being overturned, just as I've been saying they would be. And here is yet another one. An appellate court has thrown out a $500 million civil fraud penalty against President Donald Trump in the high-profile case brought by none other than, remember this wonderful piece of garbage? Yeah, her. Isn't she pretty? Which one am I going to use? How about that one? Yeah, there we go. New York Attorney General Letitia James. New York Appellate Division overturned the penalty, ruling the disgorgement was an excessive fine that violates the Eighth Amendment. Five-member panel all upheld findings that Trump and his company were liable, affirming that James acted within her authority and that injunctive relief to curb Trump organization practices was appropriate. The ruling leaves liability intact, but eliminates the massive financial penalty of $364 million plus interest, which raised so far to around $500 million. Trump took the Truth Social to declare a total victory and railed against James and the original trial judge, who, oh, by the way, was Arthur Engoron. Remember that idiot? We're going to talk a little bit about him here shortly. James claimed to win too, noting the appellate court upheld the findings of fraud and restrictions of Trump's businesses as she pledged to appeal the penalty decision. She's under all kinds of investigations right now. Total victory in the fake New York State Attorney General Letitia James case, Trump wrote. I greatly respect the fact that the court had the courage to throw out this unlawful and disgraceful decision that was hurting businesses throughout all of New York State. Others were afraid to do business there. The amount, including interest and penalties, was over $550 million. It was a political witch hunt in a business sense, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. He also blasted the case as election interference, saying it was tried during his 2024 presidential campaign while praising Justice David Friedman, who assured a partial dissent. Friedman wrote that James took true aim was political and argued the entire case should be dismissed. He said her ultimate goal was not market hygiene, but political hygiene, ending with the derailment of President Trump's political career and the destruction of his real estate business, because that's what she wanted to do. She ran on that. She ran to be district attorney, saying, if you elect me, I will do everything in my power to take down that criminal Donald Trump. Not even knowing if he was criminal or not. She had no idea what these cases were. She couldn't see them. Friedman blasted James' use of Section 6312 of New York's executive law, which gives the state attorney general broader powers to pursue civil fraud claims. He wrote that it was unprecedented and political, giving James essentially limitless power to prosecute her political enemies. Friedman wrote that Trump's business deals involved sophisticated parties who profited without harming the public, and concluded he would reverse the judgment and dismiss the complaint. Section 6312 has never been used in the way it was being used in this case, namely to attack successfully private commercial transactions, negotiations at arm's length between highly sophisticated parties fully capable of monitoring and defending their own interest. All parties to these private transitions profited handsomely from the deals, from which there was no negative effect on the public interest. Because the judges were split on liable, the case is now likely headed to New York's highest court, the Court of Appeals. James confirmed her intention to appeal the ruling in a statement saying she was doing so to protect the rights and interests of New Yorkers. No, it's to protect your own rights because your ass is going to jail soon. The liable court today affirmed the well-supported finding of the trial court. Donald Trump, his company, and two of his children are liable for fraud, James wrote. Oh, girl. You're going to look great in orange. Yes, you are. You are going to look just so pretty. But wait, there's more. There's more news to piss off the Democrats and liberals. In New York, a court revealed that a leading citizen had cooked the books by inflating questionable figures without any support in reality. Moreover, his wild, over-valacious was widely viewed as motivated by his self-determination to destroy Donald Trump. The final report figures are so absurdly inflated that they were rejected in their entirety. In the end, he was off by over $500 million. And which judge might that be? Remember that piece of shit? Yep, Judge Arthur Engoron. We call him Igor. After New York Appellate Court unanimously threw out Igor's absurd $500 million judgment and interest against President Donald Trump, the irony was crushing. It was Igor who seemed, as he criticized Trump's witness, as having simple, denied reality. It made his notorious reliance on an assessment of Mar-a-Lago is worth between $18 million and $27.6 million. Seems like good accounting. In the end, he could not get a single judge to persuade a single dollar of that fine. For some of us who covered that trial, the most vivid image of Igor came at the start. He indicated that he did not want cameras in the courtroom, but when the network showed up, Igor took off his glasses and seemed to pose for the cameras. It was a Sunset Boulevard moment for the liberal piece of shit. We only need Gloria Swanson looking to the camera to speak to those wonderful people out there in the dark and announce, all right, Miss James, I'm ready for a close-up. The close-up was not a good idea. And on appeal, it was perfectly disastrous. The court found little or factual basis for his fine. Reported witnesses did not lose a dime, but they testified that they made money on the loans and wanted new loans with the Trump administration. That did not move Igor. From the start, he was speaking to those wonderful people out there. You did not have to go far in both the civil and criminal trials in New York against Trump. There was a carnival atmosphere in the streets outside the courtroom. It was really not derangement as much as delusional. Trump New York attorney General Tina James had injected lawfare directly into the veins of New Yorkers, pledging in her campaign to bag Trump without bothering to name any criminal violations. James was elected based on her recreational rather than legal appeal. Yet James could not have succeeded if she did not have a judge willing to ignore reality and cook the books on the fines. She needed a partner in lawfare. She needed Judge Igor. Even for some anti-Trump commentaries, the judgment was impossible to defend, and some acknowledged that they never seen a case like this one brought in New York before because there's never been one. Judge David Friedman gave Igor a close-up that would have been Swanson Wentz. He detailed how the underlying law has never been used in the way it's being used in this case, namely to attack successful private commercial transactions negotiated at arm's length between highly sophisticated parties fully capable of monitoring and defending their own interests. He accused Igor of participating in an effort clearly distracted by Letitia James at ending with the derailment of President Trump's political career and the destruction of his real estate business. Other judges said that Igor's fine was so off base and erroneous that it was unconstitutional order under the Eighth Amendment protecting citizens from cruel and unusual punishment. So Igor not only inflated the figures, but shredded the Constitution in his effort to deliver a blow against Trump. Trump can now appeal the residual part of Igor's decision, posing limits on the Trump family doing business in New York. Some of those limits could be moot by the time of any final judgment. As far as I'm concerned, Donald Trump, forget New York. Don't ever do business there again. Just let them dry up like California is going to and just float away. Ironically, if Igor had shown just a little bit of restraint, he might have secured a victory. During the trial in New York, I said he would just have been smart to impose a $1 fine and limit injustice relief. That, however, required the just restraint and judgment. Instead, Igor chose to walk down the stairway into the flames. He was off by $500 million, which could put him in the Bernie Madoff class of judges. In other words, if he wanted to be remembered on that first day, that judge succeeded in doing just that. I will say it again, liberals and Democrats. All of those cases, I followed them as if it was my own family member, and they will all be overturned on appeal because they're baseless. I mean, just look at the one with E.J. Carroll, for instance. We're still waiting for that to be overturned on appeal, and it will be, okay, where she gets millions of dollars, yet her word against his, no evidence of anything. No video footage, and there were video footage available of her and Trump at the same location at the same time. No witnesses. No DNA evidence. It was just her word against his. And you see, Donald Trump travels with a shit ton of people, even before he became president. He had security with him everywhere he went because he was a billionaire. He was a very wealthy man. He had a reality TV show. And he just wandered into a department store by himself, walked up to her, started talking to her, convinced her to go into a dressing room and groped her. That was her claim. That was her claim. And then, did she go to the police? Oh, no. When Trump started running to be president, she decided that she would write a book about it, not go to the police. Yep. And then she went on all these talk shows, media places to promote her book. And then she realized she was heading into slander and defamation. So then and only then did she file a criminal complaint for sexual assault by Donald Trump. And it went before a judge. And the judge looked at her evidence. None. No video, no pictures, no witness, absolutely nothing. She couldn't remember the date. She couldn't remember the time. And the judge went, get the fuck out of here, and tossed the case. So then Donald Trump took to the airways, trashing her for trashing him and letting the world know he's never met this woman in his life. Had no clue who the hell she was. That she's full of shit. She's just a media whore trying to sell a book. And then she filed for defamation and slander in a civil case because Trump was defending himself against her slander and defamation of character. And they judge shopped and jury shopped and found a place in New York where they could get a liberal judge appointed by a Democrat, which they did, and pick a jury that happens to be anti-Trump, which they did, and had the exact same evidence for that trial as they did for the federal trial, for the criminal trial. Zero. But it didn't matter because the liberals were running the show there. Boom! Trump's guilty. Same thing with the Stormy Daniels case. All of this is just crumbling the fuck apart. Why? Because it's fake. It's all made up. It's a huge smear campaign. That's all it is. It's smoke and mirrors to try and destroy this man who's doing great things for this country. And the left is so fucking insane that they can't see it or hear it. They tune into their liberal pundits on YouTube and Rumble and Facebook and MSNBC and believe the crap that they're telling them without doing any homework. And it's all coming back to bite them in the ass. And they refuse to admit to it. They refuse to admit they were wrong. They're never going to admit they were wrong. You can't fix these liberals. I've come to that conclusion. They are mentally fucking sick. You cannot fix them. They're lost. They're on another planet out there. Our only hope is to get regular Democrats out there that are working, trying to put food on the table for their family, raise their kids, take them to softball practice, basketball, gymnastics, everyday Americans that just happen to vote Democrat, like I used to, waking up and realizing that the Democrat Party has been hijacked by far left liberals and their ideology, and it's not what aligns with their values. And more are starting to wake up to that. And that's all we need to have happen. More and more of them to either become an independent or become a Republican and ditch the Democrat Party, just like all the donors are doing right now. Google that, liberals and Democrats. Google the money that's drying up for the DNC. Because all those billionaires and millionaires that were writing checks to the DNC realize they were lied to and realize that Donald Trump is doing some great shit once again to make America great, and against everything that even as I speak, the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. continue to say just the opposite. It is what it is, my friends. And speaking of D.C., Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department had confirmed today that there has not been a homicide in the city in more than a week. Isn't that amazing? For the first time in probably ever I wonder how that happened. There have been no recorded homicides in the city of Washington, D.C. in the past week, said Public Information Officer Michael Russo. Our last recorded homicide was August 13th. The homicide-free week comes after President Donald Trump's federalization of the D.C. police on August 11th as federal law enforcement arrests skyrocket. Attorney General Pam Bondi said on X today that federal law enforcement had made 53 arrests in Washington, D.C. On Wednesday, and 24 more arrests were made by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Our mission to make D.C. safe again isn't slowing down, she said. Yesterday, federal law enforcement also seized 10 guns, and the U.S. Marshal Service helped recover a missing child. Since Trump federalized the D.C. police on August 11th and called the National Guard troops to clean up the Capitol streets, a controversial move that has caused fury among many of his political opponents, the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. and Congress, and the liberals. 630 people have been arrested. 86 illegal guns have been confiscated from day one. Yesterday, 77 total arrests, or a slight jump from what it was on Tuesday. Bondi announced yesterday that federal law enforcement had made 66 arrests the prior day and that 8 illegal weapons had been seized. FBI Director Kash Patel provided further updates on X Thursday morning. FBI joined federal partners in 31 more arrests just last night. Those arrests included 6 illegals with firearms, drug seizures, 7 of them, charges for theft, charges for assault with a deadly weapon, drug offenses, assault of an officer, and unlawful entry. This is a team effort across multiple federal partners. They're working around the clock to get it done, and your capital city is safer every day because of it, Kash Patel said. Proponents of Trump's latest move include the National Federal Order of Police Vice President Joe Gamblin, who noted that local officers have been handcuffed by the city's Democrat leadership. Their average homicide rate has doubled in the past 10 years. They used to average less than 100 homicides. Now they're averaging over 200 homicides. And it's because you have a radical element on that city council that has defunded the police department there. They have embraced revolving door criminal justice policies, even letting murderers walk out on the street after only serving 6 years. And frankly, they treat the hardworking men and women of law enforcement in that town like crap. So, of course, they needed all the help they could get. You have to do something, otherwise it's going to get out of control. Recent high-profile crimes leading up to the federalization, including the brutal August 3rd beating and attempted carjacking of Edward Christine, a former Doge employee known as Big Boss. 2 juveniles from Maryland were arrested in the incident, and more suspects remain at large. Before that, Congressional intern Eric Traplin Jasmine, 21, was shot June 30th on the 1200 block of 7th Street Northwest. He died later that day. He was a student at University of Massachusetts and was an intern for Representative Ron Estes. Several people exited a vehicle and began firing shots, striking him. Metropolitan Police Department said that he was not the original intended target for the shooting. And currently, as I mentioned on Tuesday night's show, we're finding out that the Washington, D.C. police cooked the books, and we're not reporting to the federal government how many homicides were taking place, how many women were being raped, how many people were being attacked, pickpocketed, carjacking. No, they were showing false numbers so it didn't look as bad as it was. It's all unfolding. New documents and communication between Sleepy Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, between his staff and career officials at the Justice Department, prompted scrutiny of the legality of former President Joe Biden's thousands of last-minute pardons. The Oversight Project shared documents obtained from the Trump Department of Justice showing that career prosecutor warned Biden's inner circle that the administration's pardons process was unorthodox and legally troubling. In the most scrutinized email, then Assistant Deputy Attorney General Bradley Winsinger wrote a group email to several executive office staff members on January 18th, asking questions about the more than 2,500 pardons that Joe Biden never signed. He didn't even know they were happening. It was all done with an auto pen. And that lady who did it testified she had no idea if the president knew about these or not. She was directed by other staff members to sign it with the auto pen. The White House has described those who receive the pardons as people convicted of non-violent drug offenses. I think you should stop saying that because it is untrue or at least misleading. As you know, even with an exceeding limited review, we are permitted to do, and the individuals we believe you might be considering the community action. We initially identified 19 that were highly problematic. He cited convicts Terrence Richardson and Fergan Claiborne, who were included in the clemency grants, and noted that DOJ received voluminous objections from victims' families and law enforcement as the men have been sentenced to life imprisonment for drug trafficking offenses during which a police officer was killed. That, according to the Oversight Project Vice President Cal Brunson, shows the Department of Justice was concerned about the vague construct of Biden's pardons and how they appeal to be illegally delegated to staff. They also left the Department of Justice wondering at times which offense for people with multiple convictions were specifically expunged. Later in the email, he was like, look, I read in a statement, you put out the president's name saying you're releasing a bunch of non-violent drug offenders, yet you got murderers on that list and some that killed cops. So I'm trying to figure out what the president wants here for this funky warrant. Discussing other documents received, Bozeman and attorney Sam Dewey cited a spreadsheet of convicts, which offenses described to the Department of Justice for the second of several collective or catch-all warrants. I think it's best that we receive a statement or direction from the president as to the meaning of the warrant language, he wrote to the White House staff, that will allow us to give full effect to the communication warrants in a manner intended by the president. There was ultimately no explanation for what the offenses or the proverbial descriptions were, according to the documents, Bolson said, adding that the Department of Justice officials suggested to the Biden staff that you should stop saying pardons were more nonviolent drug offenders because it's untrue or at least misleading. Bolson explained that the spreadsheet of convicts said to be attached to one of the emails came from the U.S. Sentencing Commission. And only the president has the power to grant those pardons. And the president wasn't even in the loop. He didn't know shit about this. Treating it otherwise, he said, would amount to an illegal declaration of presidential authority. To that end, Bozeman pointed to the New York Times interview with Biden in July, wherein the paper reported Mr. Biden did not individually approve each name of the category of pardons that applied to large numbers of people. He and aides confirmed. Rather, an extensive discussion of different possible criteria, he signed off on the standards he wanted to be used to determine when convicts would qualify for reduction of sentence. High-profile pardon recipients like General Mark Miley were discussed directly with aides. Biden did not pardon individual people. He laid out categories of types of people to release and left it to staff to figure out who met that criteria. Adding that many warrant documents were also found to be auto-penned. Dewey said in a statement, the situation was worse than that because literally no one, including Department of Justice officials, understands what the aforementioned pardon criteria are. You generally don't see people write emails like this, as he said, but now that we're in charge, we've got the emails, we subpoenaed them, we have them, and we now know what took place. This isn't a CYA. This isn't, I'm going to do a Pontius Pilate routine because this is a drug deal and I want to make very sure it doesn't come back on me. The entire situation, Dewey said, also has a presence of such pardons being considered invalid going back to before we were even a country. If the pardon is invalid, it falls. And then you proceed as if there were no pardon. Biden previously defended his pardon, saying that he wanted to undo disappropriately long sentences compared to sentences that would receive today under current law, policies, and practices. Well, if you shoot and kill a police officer in the event of a robbery, your ass should never be released. But they were. Do you think anybody told Joe Biden that? Bunch of pathetic losers that were running in that administration. Running rogue. President Donald Trump has long touted tariffs as a key source of government revenue. And within just a few months of their implementation, billions of dollars have already flowed into federal coffers. The Democrats in Congress and the liberal media all said Trump's plan will not work. They all said Trump's plan will destroy our economy. They even brought on experts in economy that were all full of shit. They were 100% wrong as usual on tariffs as they are on the border, law and order in America, and world peace. The U.S. collected more than $29 billion in tariff revenues in just July, the highest monthly total this year, according to the Treasury Department's latest customs and certain excess tax data released on August 19th. Total tariff revenues have reached $158.3 billion since Trump put them into effect. Revelation comes on the heels of Trump's sweeping tariffs of imported goods, duties paid by U.S. businesses to the federal government, but in some cases often passed on to consumers through higher prices. And we've seen those higher prices, 50 cents here, $1 here, 75 cents there. Big freaking deal if it's saving us billions of dollars and evening the playing field. Either no tariffs on us or we pay the same tariffs that you guys do. That's only fair trade. Tariff revenues rose steadily from approximately $17.4 billion in April to $23.9 billion in May, before climbing to $28 billion in June and peaking at a cool $29.6 billion in July. At the current pace, the U.S. could collect as much tariff revenue in just 4 to 5 months as it did over the entire previous year. On Tuesday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said he anticipates revising this year's tariff revenue estimate above the previous 300 billion projection. While he did not offer a new forecast, he emphasized the total would be significantly higher. Bassett also said that the White House is considering the possibility of using some of the tariff revenue to address the nation's surging debt, adding that in a CNBC interview that he and Trump are laser focused on paying down the debt. The nation's debt, which is amount of money the U.S. owes its creditors, is nearing $37.2 trillion as of August 20th. According to the Treasury Department, the staggering figures have intensified the long-standing debate in Washington over government spending, taxation efforts to rein in the ballooning amount of money. I think that we're going to bring down the deficit to GDP. We will start paying down debt, and then at a point that can be used as an offset for the American people. He said on the tariff revenues, bottom line, Trump wins again, while Democrats and liberals lose their damn minds. Everything they said was going to happen didn't, and it isn't. Crime is coming down and getting under control in Democrat cities because Trump is implementing federal authority to their police officers and activating National Guard members and going in there with FBI and other agencies to root out and remove these criminals from these cities and put their ass away. And he's going after all the illegal criminals that are murderers and rapists and drug traffickers and members of cartel. And that's just driving the left insane. Because the liberal pundits over at places like MSNBC are lying to them. And so many liberal experts on places like YouTube are lying to them. Trump has saw to it that we have the most secure border in our history going on right now. Facts don't lie, my friends. Trump is managing to bring world peace. He's managing to get, look, Joe Biden didn't even attempt to negotiate any kind of deal to stop that war. He just kept pumping billions of dollars of military equipment into Ukraine to defend themselves. Trump said bullshit. And he's actively involved with talking to the Russian president, meeting with the Russian president, and with Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, to put an end to this freaking war that's useless and just killing hundreds of thousands of people all over the Middle East. Countries are starting to realize what they did the last time Trump was in office. Don't fuck around while this guy's in office. Wait. Just wait. Take something directly out of the Democrats' playbooks in the cities in America. Wait till Democrats are back in charge. Then do stupid shit. Just like they do in their cities, with sanctuary cities. Every metropolitan city in America. Every one of them that's run by a Democrat, that's where your crime is out of control. That's where illegal immigrants that are killing and murdering and raping is out of control. That's where black on black crime is out of control. Black youth going out there shooting and killing each other on a daily basis. That's where the Antifa shit happens. That's where the bad elements of BLM take place. It's all taking place in places that are run by Democrat mayors. And it's Democrat mayors and governors that are fighting against cleaning up their own streets to make their people safe. They won't do it, so Trump's doing it. And now Trump's the bad guy for wanting you to be able to not get shot going to the grocery store, or your wife or girlfriend or daughter raped by an illegal alien, or your house broken into and all your shit stolen, or your car hijacked, all the shit that's been happening in these Democrat-run cities. And these absolute batshit crazy, insane nut jobs that are now the leadership of the Democrat Party in Washington, D.C., if every Democrat out there would just take the time to listen to what's coming out of the mouths of AOC, of Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, Jasmine Crockett, Cory Booker, Hankam Jeffries, just listen with your own ears what they're saying and what they represent, and you will realize that you do not align with their ideology. It isn't what the average Democrat aligns with. I've been trying to tell you, as a former Democrat, the party's gone. It's gone. It was hijacked by far left liberals, and it's not coming back anytime soon when you look up what's happening in Congress with those Democrats and the way that they turned the justice system into a two-tier justice system. You're going to start seeing some people, Democrats and liberals, that you looked up to, that you thought were just the shit. And it turns out they lied to you. You're going to start seeing some of them in handcuffs soon. Trust me. And it's going to be a glorious day when it happens. You had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I thank you very, very much. Again, whether you're watching me tonight on YouTube or Rumble or X, hey, like, subscribe to the channel. We also have a Facebook page. And spread the word. Share the videos, share the channel with your family and friends and all your social media sites. Help us continue to build this movement to getting the facts and the truth out there, no matter how much it hurts the feelings of Democrats that have liberal mentality, and then the far left liberals of our society. Whatever you do this weekend, please be safe. Please watch out for one another. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And as always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, angel families, our blue and gold star families in our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. If something happens of major importance between now and next Tuesday, I will either do a video about it or I will come and do a live program about it. Other than that, I'm planning on enjoying some time on the water with my boat. Not like I did the last time. And just relaxing with my family. Take care, my friends, and God bless you.